Don't be alarmed. If it starts reciting poetry, we have a kill switch. The Hunter Robotics team went from nothing to amazing in a very short amount of time. It's their 6th year in business this year, and the things that this group has accomplished has really been staggering. And since I teach computer science, I want nothing to do with it. But we have a much better advisor, one of our administrators, the wonderful assistant principal, Lisa Siegmann. Welcome.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Totus. I became an English teacher 25 years ago. And about 5 years ago, about the time that I became an assistant principal, I also sort of volunteered to help out with this robotics thing. And our team is called the Rohawks. Totus here, with its elevator-inspired design, it's named by combining the famous elevator company, Otis, with the game piece, the Totus. And Totus is a representative both of our sense of humor, but also very much about, we're very proud of the fact that it's the winner of the DC 2015 robotics competition. Thank you. And operating Totus today is the man behind the curtain, Russell Bingham, who is here waving. There we go. So how does a crew of high school students with little or no formal computer programming, engineering, design, or manufacturing education learn to work with a small group of dedicated financial executives to build a 120-pound robot? And how does an English teacher with degrees in literature, theater, and pedagogy end up literally sorting nuts and bolts in a robot lab? And why does it matter? Today I'd like to talk about how teaching Shakespeare and building robots supports my vision of what's important in education. I've learned that the skills of adaptation, improvisation, reframing questions, and perseverance are critical life skills that both Shakespeare and robots give our students. Now, teaching Shakespeare has long been one of my greatest professional pleasures. Unpacking the language, discovering the humor, revealing the embedded stage directions within the speech, and getting everyone up off their feet to play. Shakespeare meant for these words to be spoken aloud, not sitting at a desk, reading silently. And students spend long days sitting in uncomfortable seats. So when you're doing Shakespeare, you should do it on your feet. Many of you may remember reading A Midsummer's Night Dream in school. It's funny and it's accessible, which is excellent criteria for introducing the bard. At a former school, I directed a production of Midsummer that had the students, junior high students, as the leads, and the teachers as the mechanicals, which are the group of actors that put on a play within a play with sort of disastrous results. Having students and teachers working together was a creatively powerful relationship. In schools, the adults are usually the experts, and students aren't used to getting a chance to learn with adults. Now, everyone had trouble learning lines. We had difficulty, we'd forget, we'd drop lines, we'd confuse lines, so we rehearsed over and over again. Now, those mistakes were made, but learning to improvise and not to give up when you fail, those are central lessons of theater. And they're central lessons in a successful life. It's why I value teaching theater to young people. Things go wrong on stage and in life. Learning how to persevere in the face of failure is a critical life skill. With older students, I taught a later Shakespeare play, in part because the main character was so skilled at adapting to his new circumstances. In The Tempest, the main character, Prospero, was betrayed and banished from his homeland, and he and his daughter, Miranda, are now the only humans on an island. Now, this island is home to great spirits of power, and Prospero has commanded the spirits to serve him. Prospero is an intellectual magician. He demands that the fairy spirit Ariel create a storm that will bring his enemies to him, where he will set everything aright. Prospero reframes the situation that he's had to adapt to, and with single-minded purpose and perseverance, he succeeds. Now, in the late 1950s, Hollywood would use this play to inspire a movie that explored fears of the new US-Soviet space race and the nascent awareness of rapidly evolving technology. The 1957 sci-fi classic Forbidden Planet is a creative reworking of The Tempest. It's set in the future on an uninhabited planet. And Ariel, the magical fairy spirit, becomes a large, super capable robot named Robbie, who spins around the island, protecting his creator, planet, Dr. Edward Morbius and his beautiful daughter. In this retelling, there's no magic, just technology. And it shows the start of what the Cold War era would introduce to American culture through literature and film, a fear of technology in the hands of power. Now, my literary sensibilities have always tended to run dark. I was entranced by the dystopic universes of Brave New World, which the title comes from The Tempest, of course, Orwell's 1984, and of course Kubrick's computer HAL in 2001, A Space Odyssey. Teaching literature that revealed the cultural fears of technology and power allowed students to talk about how they envisioned their relationship to technology. Is it something to be feared or to be celebrated? Is it accessible to all, or only the realm of a few genius magicians? As an English teacher, it became my way of touching the technological void. So I shouldn't have been surprised at how these same values would surface in the next stage of my educational career, robots. As I entered teaching in the 90s, the critical concern was that there weren't enough math and science teachers. Public education still struggles to maintain the necessary cadre of STEM teachers. That's an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And public schools barely manage to fund current needs, much less pay for expensive new technology. So Dean Kamen's solution, which is the program we participate in, First Robotics, was founded in 1989. Now, you may know Dean Kamen. He's the founder of the first drug infusion pump, the iBot wheelchair, and perhaps more popularly, the Segway. He believes that we must transform our culture by creating a world where science and technology are celebrated and where young people dream of becoming science and technology leaders. Our team had the chance to meet Mr. Kamen a couple years ago and show him our robot. To generate the kind of excitement and celebration that Kamen envisioned, he created a competition. It starts the day after New Year's each year when the FIRST organization, which stands for Inspiration, Recognition of Science and Technology, releases a game challenge around the world. And teams have 6 weeks to build a robot that can compete in that challenge. Usually it's 3 robots against another 3 robots in a tournament-like playoff structure. You've been seeing earlier today our earlier robot, Das Bot, over there, which was designed to throw an exercise ball into a raised goal. I'm going to show you a clip of Totus in action in this year's tournament. As you can see, Totus first picks up a green garbage can on the top, and then we drive it to the human loading station where these totes are loaded in, and the robot must pull them up, and then the student driver has to delicately drive the robot with all of the totes and the garbage can onto a raised, tricky, platform, offload it without dropping, and points are scored. Pretty amazing. So how exactly did our team of 9th and 12th graders create this robot? Well, it took adaptation, improvisation, collaboration with dedicated adults, and learning to reframe questions. What do we have to do? How do we make it happen? And oh my, it took perseverance. Let me first say that this educational opportunity simply can't happen without the generous funding of the Hunter College High School Alumni Association, the Foundation, and the high school PTA. But it only happens because of the profound contribution, both financial and technical, of our mentors at Alliance Bernstein. What the FIRST program does is it matches schools with philanthropically minded corporate mentors who fill that technical and financial gap that's needed for a project of this scale. Our mentors, Prosperos in their own realms, are financial and technical wizards at an asset management firm. They're not teachers. Alliance Bernstein sponsors 2 teams in New York City because they see the need to invest in serious technical education for high school students right now. Our lead mentors, Chief Technology Officer Carl Spruels and Adam Salem, the Senior Programming Analyst, run ridiculously important technology for the company's financial transactions. And yet they've made a sustained commitment to build a robot each year for 5 years. And they're joined by mentors Christine, Andy, Corinne, and Duncan, who relentlessly ask questions that lead the students to design the robot and then help them manufacture it and program it. So how do we start? Well, there's a lot of talking and a lot of late-night emails. The process involves articulating ideas and then adapting them after team members and mentors collaborate. Again, kids and adults working together. The mentors ask tough questions and offer critiques. It's a process that's hard to replicate in a school. Once the students have agreed on a round of design ideas, they begin the process of designing and prototyping. Now, students are used to creating individual projects, term papers, labs, tests, but this is moving from conception to finished product with other people, and that's hard. It requires attention to detail, accuracy of measurements, patience, and utter devotion to completing a task. It also requires learning to accept when an idea isn't working. In our team's first years, our mentors needed to learn how to break down this process, which is intuitive and foundational in their work worlds, to something our students could grasp and emulate. Often, students are working concurrently on separate modules. I'm going to show you 3 clips from our sort of robot lab. Here's the first clip, where we're working on a really important piece, which is the drivetrain, and that is what will power the robot. You notice that 4 wheels, you can see down here on the real one, it's a pretty substantial mechanism, and they have to be in sync and drive enough power to go up that ramp. Another group is going to be working on one of the game challenge scoring points, and in this case, it's how do we get this tote all the way up the robot frame, quickly, consistently, without misaligning, without falling over. And so you've got groups of kids working on both of these projects simultaneously. And then a third group is working on the controller mechanism. Now in this video, you're going to see we moved a little bit further along the process. We're moving around. We're seeing if the swerve is in fact steady enough not to necessarily knock everything while we're holding things in place. There's a lot of tasks, and they don't all get done, and they don't all get done well all the time. But that's an important lesson too. Schools are predicated on the idea that you strive to avoid failing. We teach children that success comes from a good work ethic, strong study and organizational skills, and a positive attitude. Failure isn't considered a necessary precursor for success. It's something to be avoided at all costs. If you fail, you get in trouble with your parents and your teachers. So students really don't want to fail. When you build robots, you're going to fail, and you need to figure out what to do then. By late January, early February, we're actually testing more than we're building. And in this video, you can see that we're moving faster, we're a little more stable with our totes on the feet, we're driving well, and as par for the course, we're also falling all over the place. Now, if you were in the room, what would happen is we'd all be standing there staring at it, be silent. And then a couple minutes later, everyone would be talking all at once with reasons about why it happened and what to do next. And then we do it again, and we do it again. Now, as a non-engineer, my contribution to this phase of the process is usually to tape the video runs, to organize dinner, and to tell the students they have to go home because they still have homework to do. And let's be clear, these are not particularly important skills. But during the last weeks of the robot building, the students are seeing the most important life lessons at work. The team is improvising solutions and reframing questions all the time. And somewhere around that 4th consecutive all-day Saturday in the robot lab, after one too many Chipotle lunches, and nerves are frayed, and all of our outside responsibilities are slipping, and the winter flu season has hit us, the end goal, this robot here, is awfully hard to see. But what sees us through is perseverance. So how do students learn to persevere? Well, by doing it, and by watching the adults they're working with do it. It happens when my seniors watch the mentors pouring painstakingly for line of line and line of code to find the error. It's when my juniors see the seniors who just spent hours manufacturing a little metal piece that turns out to not fit. And instead of trying to jam it in, sometimes we've tried that, but instead of trying to jam it in, they start all over and they manufacture it again. That's how they learn, by seeing it done. When I taught theater, perseverance was nurtured through the mantra, the show must go on. Now I work at an institution whose motto is that of today's TEDx. The care of the future is mine. I know that the skills that make theater and robots possible are all the ways that we care for the future. Technology is our future. How we work together with it and on it is how we will care for the future. And it's why my work as an educator supporting FIRST Robotics matters. So you've seen all the parts, and I'm going to show you one last clip of Totus in action now that you've seen where we were and where we ended up. When I go to these competitions and I walk into the Javits Center and I see all these robots built by students and mentors, I can't help, being the English teacher that I am, to remember something that Miranda says in The Tempest the first time that she sees human beings. She says, "Oh, wonder, how many goodly creatures are there here? How beauteous mankind is, oh, brave new world that has such people in it." Her father responds, "'Tis new to thee." It is a new world that we're going to teach our students to inhabit. And as an educator, I'm profoundly grateful to the collaboration of committed, idealistic adults, corporate philanthropy, and public education that are teaching the important skills of this brave new world. All right, come on, Totus. We got work to do. Thank you very much.